คือในเคสของคนใกล้ชิดที่เขาเช็คกันแล้วในวงที่เขานักเคลื่อนไหวเนี่ย
จริงด้วย
เช็คกันแล้วว่า
ยังไม่เสร็จเลย
ท้ายรถกูพังแล้วมันสั้นปะข้างบนยาวสั้นนั่นตรงเนี้ยสั้นปะตรงเนี้ยไม่สั้นใช่ได้อยู่ไม่ต้องซีเรียสหรอกยังไม่เคยตัดผมไอเชื่อมั่นไม่ต้องห่วงนะไม่ต้องห่วงหรอกเบบไม่ต้องซีเรียส
ไม่ซีเรียสอยู่อะไรแต่ซีเรียสหรือเปล่า
ไอไม่ซีเรียสอยู่แล้วไอเป็นผู้ชายส่งมึงไม่ต้องเลยส้มมันจะให้เดียใช้อันเนี้ย
ใช้ง่ายพี่มันไม่ได้ใช้ยากมันไม่ได้จับอย่างนั้น
กูดู2499อันธพาลคลองเมืองมาอย่าไอ้จ๊อดเมื่อคืนทะเลาะกันด้วยกูตายแน่มันเรื่องอะไรนะที่จอร์นี่เดฟเล่นอยู่
เรื่อง Pirates of the Caribbean
อะไรท็อดจอห์นสวีนี่ได้จริงๆผมไอตัดทรงอะไรก็ได้นอกจากการละครอบผมตัดแล้วหน้าทุเรศมากได้อยู่เนี่ยกูนึกว่าจอร์นี่เดฟเลยเหมือนไหมตรงเนี้ยเหมือนไหมเหมือนไหมครับจอร์นี่เดฟผมว่าเหมือนนะไม่ใช่จอร์นี่เดฟไพเรตนะจอร์นี่เดฟเดอะแรปเปอร์อะเฮ้ยผมมาได้อยู่หล่อแล้วเสร็จแล้วใช่
ยัง
อะไรทำอะไร
กันข้างกับกันหลังกันให้ยายดูข้างนึงแล้วก็
ตัดผมอ่ะเดี๋ยวผมมันก็ขึ้นตัดหูอ่ะกูหูเบี้ยวตลอดชีวิตเนี่ยนะมือเดียนะตอนเดียตัดผมนะเผื่อบางคนยังไม่รู้ฟีลลิ่งจริงๆอ่ะไอไม่ได้สนใจหรอกว่ายูจะตัดเป็นยังไงนะผมอ่ะไอโอเคเพราะผมมันขึ้นได้เสมอไอไม่ได้ซีเรียสไอร้อนแต่ที่แปลกเนี่ยตอนเดียตัดอ่ะคนดูที่บ้านจะรู้สึกว่ามันตัดอย่างนี้ใช่ไหมกลัวอยู่อ่ะไม่กล้าเลยเนี่ยนั่นคือความรู้สึกของคนดูที่เห็นแต่จริงๆแล้วเนี่ยความรู้สึกของคนที่นั่งอยู่ตอนเดียจะรู้สึกเงี้ย
มันเกรงอ่ะ
มันเกรงไงแล้วถ้าเป็นมีดโกนลองนึกภาพดูดิยูไอบอกอยู่เลยนะจากทรงผมนี้นะให้ยูทายก่อนว่ายูคิดว่าได้เท่าไหร่
ยูเห็นหมดทั้งหัวแล้วใช่ป่ะ
ไอไม่สนใจทั้งหัวไอดูตัวเองจากแค่ข้างหน้าพอ
โอเค7ไม่แต่เซตมามันโอเคไอมองว่ามันเซตมาแล้วมันน่าจะโอเคอยู่
7เหรอเนี่ย
อยู่ให้เท่าไหร่
สาบานเลยนะความเป็นจริงเลยนะไอให้ 8.5 เต็มร้อยล้อเล่นไอให้ 8.5 จริงๆ 8.5 ถือว่ายูตัดโอเคเพราะว่าสำหรับผมอ่ะผมไม่สนใจหรอกว่าทรงมันจะเป๊ะเบี้ยวหรือเปล่ามีอะไรหรือเปล่าผมดูจากฟีลลิ่งมันเหมือนศิลปะทุกอย่างมันไม่ต้องเป๊ะถ้าเปรียบเทียบการตัดผมของช่างโปรเฟชชั่นอลที่เป็นศิลปะเนี่ยเขาเหมือนแบบอาจารย์เฉลิมชัยอ่ะจะออกแบบศิลปะได้สวยงามมากทุกอย่างเป๊ะไปหมดแต่เดียเนี่ยปิกัสโซเบี้ยวเบอร์งงแต่ถ้าสมมติผมให้เดียใช้มีดโกนนะผมบอกเลยว่าฟันโกะแน่นอนหูขาดแต่ถือว่าเนี่ยผมว่าโอเคดูโอเคอยู่โชคดีด้วยแหละผมบอกนะตัดผมเองที่บ้านเนี่ยลำบากทรงเนี่ยผมโอเคไม่สนใจผมว่าใช้ได้ไปไหนก็โอเคแล้วอย่างสบายด้วยให้ 8.5 เต็มจริงเต็ม10จริงนะแต่ที่ลำบากผมบอกเลยนี่ท่านผู้ชมดูครับมันคันมากตอนนี้แล้วมันล้างออกยากแล้วดูหน้าเดียดิเนี่ยเหมือนไอ้พวกเม็กซิกันน่ะที่มันเป็นโรคหมาป่าเคยเห็นป่ะไลแคนน่ะไม่ใช่ไลแคนในนั้นมันเรียกว่าไลแคนจริงๆมันจะเป็นโรคหมาป่าโรคที่คนขนที่จริงๆคิ้วเดียก็คล้ายๆอย่างนั้นเป็นบุ้งมากEP หน้าใครอยากให้ผมตัดผมเดียกดไลค์นะเอา10,000 ไลค์พอ10,000 ไลค์ผมตัดผมเดีย
and the information useful. Kun Khan on the line. He'll be running us through the next session initially, and then later on I'll talk a little bit about go to the next slide there too. So we'll go
ผมจะบอก
through
ให้นะเดียบางทีมันชอบแบบยูมาทำนู่นทำนี่กันดีกว่ามีวิธีเดียที่แบบบางทีแบบลำบากจะบอกว่าเดียไปทำอย่างนี้
we'll be going through our best practice for security at scale.
เดียมันชอบมาอย่างเงี้ยยูเล่นเกมกันหน่อยดิยูทำนี่กันยูแล้วแบบยูcriteria
for that and how you'll be able to do that. Then I'll cover a little bit in detail on encryption. And then we have an exciting lab to go through a little bit later on with the scaling and threat detection lab. Which I think you'll find quite interesting.
ผมรู้แล้วเมื่อวานน่ะเดียมันดูข่าวคิมจองอึนที่ว่าตายหรือไม่ตายเนี่ยกูรู้เลยว่ามันได้แรงบันดาลใจมาจากไหนเนี่ยไอ้ข้างๆเนี่ยคิมจองอึนชัดๆผู้นำเกาหลีเหนือเลยไม่ได้อยู่
เป็น through the labs today, but I'd
มัน
like
เหมือน
to
ทรง
just
แบบพว
see
กฝรั่ง
if
ตัดอะคนเอเชียเขา
anybody
จะไม่ตัดกันนะ
has
ฝรั่ง
had
ตัดเหมือนประมาณแบบ
any
มันดู
issues
ทรง
with
ธรรม
the
ชาติ
lab or
ไม่
has some
ไม่ใส่แว็ก
questions
ไม่ใส่
that
อะไร
they would like to ask it
เนี่ย
at
คิม
this
จองอึน
point
ชัดๆเลยอึนเลยกู
before we
เจ
move
มส์หล่อป่ะ
through to
แต่
it.
เดี๋ยว
Hang
ว่า
on, I
ผม
just
พี่เจมส์ก็เริ่มยาวแล้วนะมาเดี๋ยวตัดให้
I was trying to look for the chime session. So maybe if you would like to just ask any questions you might have, and we can try and answer them before we move into Kun Khan actually doing the next session on the design. So just a few minutes for any questions.
The night is my decision.
ขอบคุณนะครับที่มาชมวิดีโอผมนะครับก็อย่าลืมกด subscribe นะครับตรงนี้เลยครับตรงพุงผมเนี่ยแหละครับนะครับแล้วก็ถ้าอยากดูวิดีโออื่นก็ดูได้ตรงไหนดีนะ
คำถามหรือว่าติดตรงไหนไหมครับหรือว่ามีข้อสงสัยเพิ่มเติมเกี่ยวกับ IAM ที่เราเมื่อวานเซสชันที่เรามีรันทรูเรื่อง IAM ไปเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้นะครับแสดงว่าทุกคนเข้าใจหมดเลยใช่ไหมครับมีอยู่2อย่างนะครับเข้าใจหมดเลยกับไม่เข้าใจเลยนะครับโอเคครับคุณสิริการเปิด
I think everybody's excited to start, or maybe.
Probably yes. โอเคก็จริงๆถ้ามีคำถามก็สามารถดรอปเป็นแชทก็ได้นะครับได้ตลอดนะครับเราจะอยู่ในคอลกันตลอดอยู่แล้วนะครับโอเค so yep, over to you คุณ Andrew.
Okay, Kun Khan, maybe if you would like to start us off with the best practices and tips for security in the cloud.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Andrew, for the recap. And again, as Kun Sikarin mentioned, please feel free to drop any question in the chat, or if you can interrupt me as well during my presentations. So, okay, so what I can share to you today is about security best practices. What is the best of the best tips for security in the cloud? What I'm gonna cover today, again, like I'm gonna talking about security best practice, security recommendation, what are guidance when you wanna develop secure system in AWS. So before I'm talking about what are security best practice, I would like to talk about where it's come from. What are the data sources that I gonna talk of the security best practice that I'm gonna cover today, and then I'm gonna talk about why security best practice or implementing security best practice is really important and critical. I'm gonna tell you, okay, between two cloud solution architect, one is a person who never aware of security best practice, and another one who really implements security best practice. What kind of scenario that each person gonna face off. And lastly, of course, the important information that I'm gonna share today is about best of the best security best practice. It's gonna include IAM that Andrew and Rohit mentioned yesterday before. I'm gonna talking about how you implement logging and monitoring, infrastructure security, and the last one is data protection, how you can secure the data in AWS. So where it's come from? What are the data sources of best practices? The first one, in 2016, AWS released one white paper we call AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, or CAF. The objective of this white paper is to provide 6 areas of focus to help our customer during cloud adoption journey. It's mean like we want customer to know what kind of areas that they need to focus when they want to move or lift and shift their IT workload to AWS. And security is one area in that CFS white paper. So in the security area is cover IAM as well, logging and monitoring, infrastructure security, data protection, as well as IR, instant response. So this kind of area we're going to talk about today, what kind of implementation, recommendation to address each area. The second data source of security best practice that we're going to cover today is AWS security best practices. This is another white paper that provide you 44 best practices in terms of security as well. It's kind of overlapping with the CAAF. We're going to talk about in that paper talking about IAM as well, logging and monitoring, infrastructure security and data protection. So these guidance in AWS security best practice are from AWS security expert and security team inside AWS. The last data source of security best practices is Center for Internet Security ICS benchmark. Andrew mentioned before, this kind of benchmark is a standard global benchmark for enterprises that to secure the system and workload. AWS provide AWS Foundation benchmark that include 148 detailed recommendation for configurations and auditing. Covering AWS Foundation is covering a lot of checks. For example, you have to enable logging, and it also have another white paper covering securing web application as well. It consists of 96 checks for web application. We're going to go through each of these area and talking about what kind of recommendation to address each area. Let's have a look at CAS benchmark a bit. In CAS benchmark, we're not telling only what kind of recommended configuration that you have to do when you running a building workload or system in the cloud. So in CAS benchmark also telling you why you need to do that. For example, this is the one example or one checklist in CAS benchmark. It tells you that you need to ensure that you enable CrowdTrail in all regions. What is CrowdTrail? Andrew and Rohit mentioned before, CrowdTrail is a service, AWS service that provide you API call history. Based on that information, you can know every user activity happening in your account. For example, user A, Bob, access a file in S3 bucket, which is storage service. For example, user B try to terminate an EC2 instance in your account. CrowdTrail can provide those information for you. So go back to CAS benchmark. It also tell you why you need to enable CrowdTrail log. If you look at the box here, you can say that the reason why you need to enable CrowdTrail log is because it provides history that help you enable security analysis, resource chain tracking, auditing, etc. And you need to ensure that you enable in all regions, because even you know that one region probably is not your active regions, but you have to know what happening in that regions, and you can use CrowdTrail information to track unusual events in that inactive regions as well. CAS benchmark tell you what, why, and also provide you how to check whether you enable CrowdTrail or not. They tell you the step. For example, you have to go to the management console, you have to click and check whether any CrowdTrail enable or not, and it also provide you how to access or check through CLI as well, command line interface. Lastly, it also tell you that how to fix it. After you audit and you figure out that actually you didn't enable CrowdTrail in our region, for example, how you fix that, how you take an action to enable and comply to this check. So they tell you that, okay, you have to go and add a new trail, and you have to take check to enable CrowdTrail in all regions. You have to specify an S3 bucket that store all logs. You have to click save, and again, it's provide you CLI command as well in case you want to enable CrowdTrail through the command line. After we understand what are the data sources of security best practice that we're going to cover today, let's talk about why the security best practices is really critical, and it's important to know, especially security people, CISO, and everyone that handling with data, handling with the workload IT application there, need to know about security best practice. Let's imagine we have two people here. A is Alice, B is Bill. Alice is a good girl that follows security best practice I'm going to cover today. For example, Bill is a person doesn't follow any security best practice. He just focus on the functionality of the application. He just need to ensure that application running well, user can access the application, like no drop, no downtime, etc. He really focus on how to improve the security posture of the application or the account. What happened? For example, Bill working for Don Mueang Airport in Bangkok, for example. And because of COVID-19 situation, the government forced airport authority, for example, Don Mueang Airport, to build one application, let's say, called e-register application. And the airport need to force every traveler who arrive Bangkok or Don Mueang to register themselves through e-register application. It's like kind of say, okay, for example, if I arrive Don Mueang Airport, I have to log into e-register application, provide my information such what is my name, what is my age, my passport, and provide traveling record. For example, what have you go within the last 2 weeks, how long you're going to stay in Bangkok, etc. Those information is really sensitive information. We kind of say it's personal information or PII data. And Bill was assigned to build that application, architect that application. And this is what I'm showing today is high level of architecture of that application that Bill designed. You can see that what it needs to run that application, you need one web server instance on the left side in the VPC. And of course, to store the data, you need internal data service. For example, you need database instances, store your data, traveler data. And Bill thought, okay, we need file object storage S3 bucket. We need 2 buckets. One is to store web images, is static content that website, e-register website need. It might be a logo, it might be a PDF file, etc. that need to show on the web application. And there are another bucket that Bill think, okay, we have another bucket to store backup data. It can be a snapshot of the database that store all information of traveler. It can be any log that put there. So all information is there. And what happened? This is the architecture that Bill built. And he ensured that, okay, every traveler can access the web application. We have the data there, we have the image there, we have a log there. We take snapshot every 3 months and store the snapshot in data backup bucket. And what happened when we have a naughty guy, bad person coming out and know about this application? That bad attacker gonna try to access the web server and see what is inside, what he can play with. And then when they compromise web server, they already go to the web server instance already. Somehow he figured out that, oh, I have permission to access the database instance as well. So why not? I just go to the internal data service node. And then, wow, I have a permission to access S3 bucket as well. I got a lot of image there. Why the attacker have the access? Because basically the web server is able to access data in web image bucket before. And then it's not just access. The attacker, the bad person, okay, try to delete the website image and static content in the S3 bucket as well. It's not enough. The web server instances have the permission, so the bad person also access to the S3 bucket that store all backup data and security event there. So what the bad actor can do, they can go and change the permission of that bucket. Instead of just allow only web server instance to access that data backup bucket, probably the bad person change the permission. Okay, this is exposed to the internet. Everyone from the internet can access that S3 bucket or that contain data backup from the internet without needing to go inside to the VPC or AWS network before. And then now it's doomed. So everyone outside the internet can get any backup data in that S3 bucket. In case you store security logging, everything, confidential data there is already gone to the to internet people. Let's talking about why this situation, a bad day happened to Bill. let's check step by step. You can see that there are some instances or resources that are internet facing resources. So far you can see that no web application protection. It's kind of no safeguard between the internet and the resources inside your AWS. The second reason is you can see that Bill put web server instance and database instance in the same account, and they have no segmentation between those instances. So that's why when bad actor compromise web server instance already, has high possibility that they're gonna jump into internal data service easily, because basically by default the traffic between them is free route. You can go in, go out to internal data service anytime. The third reason is I mentioned before, Bill put everything, every resources in one account, is increase the attack surface and is allow attacker to run around in your account. One, he compromised one resource or one instant in your account already. And you can say that the attacker went to the web server instance already, and somehow they have permission to access S3 bucket that store website image. That means attacker gained all permission and was able to access to the S3 bucket. The last one, sensitive data is not encrypted. Unfortunately, the attacker change the permission and allow people from outside, from the internet, access that S3 bucket that store data backup. But unfortunately, you also didn't encrypt any confidential data, backup data in that S3 bucket as well. But if you encrypted the data, if bad attacker or other people outside access the data, they still will not be able to read the data because the data encrypted. Sadly, Bill did not encrypt the data as well. Lastly, let's imagine Bill didn't log anything. He know that someday, the data in S3 bucket already go out where by somebody posting, or the attacker tweet on Twitter that, hey, I can compromise this e-register application, and this is the data out there. I got traveler data, I got passport, I know who visit Bangkok, etc. That is really high critical information. Bill figured out because he read the news or he followed the Twitter, for example, and he figured out that he didn't log anything. He could not investigate or do troubleshooting at all. So there is another risk that is going to damage the reputation of the company and the trust. Now let's talking about what are best practices that we can use to fix this issue. Based on the best practices I mentioned before, is include of 4 area of focus: identity and access management, logging and monitoring, infrastructure security, and data protection. The first one, Rohit explained or shared you perfectly what is IAM. You get your hand dirty trying to create a user group role attached to the user. You're familiar with that, but let's emphasize again what are best practices when you addressing identity and access management. First recommendation, we always say, please use multiple AWS account. It's going to help you to reduce branch redundancy. As I mentioned before, is one account got compromised. We don't know it. We don't want it to happen. But if it's compromised, it's going to be there. So you can use multiple account, or you can separate, determine how many account you want, or based on many reasons. You can have one, you can determine based on the staging of your development. Some customers have one account for development phase. They have another account for production. Some customer determine based on the sensitivity of the data. Like for example, they put application, they're running application in one account, and they have another account for security people that gonna see the log on activity that they capture in the application account, for example. I used to work for a company that they separate 2 accounts based on functionality. For example, they have one account for corporate users. They in that account providing all internal application being used by internal employees. And they have another account for customer only. They have application that sell or provide for customers. They separate those accounts. The reason why, because they assume that the application, the security control in the corporate account are not tight, are not perfect like what they do in the customer account. And they want to ensure that once a security incident happen in the corporate account, it will not go to the customer account and it will not impact anything to customers. It depends, but we recommend you to use multiple AWS accounts as you can. The second recommendation when you addressing identity and access management. So we suggest you to use remitted role and grant temporary security credentials. We want you to apply the principle of least privilege. What does it mean? It means don't give any privilege. Give what they want. For example, if you have a data scientist join your team, the data scientist need to only access the data in your storage or in your database instance. You just give a permission to them to only read the data or in your storage service. Don't give them to access another cloud application. Don't give them to access IAM to create another user or manage any user there. And Rohit also introduce you about IAM roles. This is a very good way to give permission to a user or to another service because it's easy to attach to a user or to service and also easy to rework. When you know which permission that person need, you have to know that as well. Is temporary or permanent? If it's temporary, you rework it back when they don't need it. If it's permanent, please use an IAM role because you can rework as at any time that you can. And when you handle with secrets or confidential credential, for example, username and password, API key or password to access the database. Let's say, as I said, e-register, right? The web application need to access the database to store and retrieve the data. Instead of just store database password, the credential to access the database in the application code, you just need to store those credential or confidential secret in a very secure place. And AWS has secret manager to do that for you. Secret Manager provide you a place to store those secret and confidential data, credentials. The last recommendation for IAM is federate to an existing identity service. Rohit talked about this a lot yesterday. For example, if you have your own identity provider in your on-premise data center, you're running Microsoft Active Directory, you can use that to leverage your IAM management. You don't need to go to IAM in AWS and create a new IAM user for every single user in your corporate network because you already have your Microsoft Active Directory. What you can do, you just need to use AWS SSO. Rohit already mentioned to you how to use it. Basically, you just authenticate your user with your on-premise Microsoft Active Directory. That user already federated user. That federated user just need to talk with AWS SSO, and AWS SSO single sign-on gonna give a temporary token so that that user can access any resource in AWS. If you run a cloud application in AWS, your corporate user that already federated can access the AWS, the cloud-based application that running AWS without any other new IAM user being created. And again, we recommend you to enable MFA. Rohit also mentioned you already, like it's really simple to enable that. You just tick when you create a user. And user just need token generator. For example, everyone, I think, download Google generator already to generate the token when you need to access AWS resources. Okay, let's talk. After we're talking about 3 main recommendations when you address IAM. let's map with the scenario that we talked before. This is the architecture of e-register application that Bob built before, and at least it's a good goal. Try to help Bob to resolve the issue. This is the recommendation I mentioned, like at least tell Bob, okay, you have to separate your resources into 2 accounts. You put a web server instances that facing the internet in 1 account, and you put database instances in another account, and you also put 1 bucket in 1 account as well that stores static website, and that data are going to be used by web server instances. But for most critical data like backup data, logging data, or snapshot of the database, please put in the 2nd account that you put the internal data service there. And then apply IAM roles to each instance. For example, if the web server instance need to access only S3 bucket that store web images, just allow the web server to be able to access that bucket. Don't allow the web server to be able to access another bucket that store the data backup. And at the same time, you give the role to the internal data service to be able to access the S3 bucket that store data backup only. Don't allow the internal data service to be able to access S3 bucket to web image. We kind of create a clear boundary, what kind of role for EC2 instance that can do or can access the resources in AWS using IAM. You ensure that you enable MFA, and you ensure that if you need to handle with the secret or credential, for example, password to access the database, you store those credentials and secret in Secret Manager. After we're talking about what are recommendations when you're addressing identity and access management, let's talking about logging monitoring. I mentioned before that Bob didn't log anything. This is the real important thing that you have to log and monitoring to ensure that you know what's happening inside. You know when you have security incidents happen, you can investigate and you can remediate and prevent before it create a lot of impact to your organization. The first recommendation when you're addressing logging and monitoring, of course, you have to turn on logging in all accounts. If you have 2 accounts like Bob, you enable logging in 2 accounts. And you have to enable logging for all services. For example, if you use EC2 instance, you need to ensure that you log EC2 instance activity there. If you use S3 bucket, you store the data, you ensure that you enable logging of S3 bucket, S3 service. So you can know that who accessed the file, which file, who delete the file. You can track, you can know. Once attacker try to delete the data or try to move the data outside of your environment, you can investigate and know who is the bad attacker, what you have to do, what kind of data you already gone. And then it's not enough. You have to ensure that you turn on logging in all regions. As I mentioned before, even you know that is an inactive region, but you have some resources and some application running there. You have to ensure that you log all activity there as well. One service that help you to log user activity is CrowdStrike that we mentioned a lot of time before. And we also have Guard Duty, which is our threat detection service that help you to detect malicious and unauthorized behavior in your account based on set of rules and machine learning and threat intelligence feeds. The second recommendation, we want to recommend you to use built-in monitoring and alerting features. You monitoring, you logging, you have to be able to know, and you have to get notified when some suspicious activity happen. So we have Security Hub, which is another security service that help you to consolidate or aggregate all security findings from our AWS security services such as Guard Duty, Messi, Inspector, and on the top of that, Security Hub also create their own finding by checking data from AWS config and agents security standards such as CAH benchmark that I mentioned before, PCI DSS, and AWS Foundation for you to show you what is your current security posture against those security benchmark. And as I mentioned before, we have AWS config that is another service that help you to track your inventory. You know that what are resources enabled and using in your environment. For example, now you have S3 bucket enabled, you have CrowdTrail enabled, you use EC2 instance, you use a relational database there. AWS config can provide you that information, as well as it provide you the configuration change information. For example, somebody just enable lock, somebody just disable locking, somebody just terminate S2 EC2 instance. Those kind of information provided by AWS config. You can use this to monitor user activity configuration change in your environment. Lastly, we recommend you to use separate account to fetch and store copy of log files. So I mentioned before, logging files, security log, CloudTrail log, API call log are really important for security. So, and we don't want you to store that log in the account that maybe customer access that log, maybe is internet facing account. We want you to have a separate account, nobody touch, only security people can access that account. And you push or you ingest all logs that you enable before from all regions and put into that account, so that you can ensure that once you have security incident happen, you have all data that you can use to investigate and troubleshoot and do remediation or prevention for the future similar incidents. Let's go back to the architect and we'll see what Ali's gonna tell Bob to do to increase logging and monitoring capability. So as I said, okay, you have to enable everything. It's like logging, CloudTrail. CloudWatch is another service that help you to allow you to ingest customized logs to CloudWatch, and you can you can create a rule and alert and take action. For example, you run an EC2 instance, it's a Linux, you enable a log and you wanna push that log to somewhere else so that you can monitor and detect suspicious activity in that Linux instance. You can push that log to Amazon CrowdWatch, and Amazon CrowdWatch allow you to create a rule. For example, if this IP address access that Linux instance, please alert me and take action. CloudWatch can do that for you as well. And ensure that you enable guard duty that help you to detect threats in your account. And you also enable AWS config that allow you to know inventory, what resources exist in your account, and what are configuration change happening in your account. After we understand about IAM, logging and monitoring, the last one is really important, infrastructure security. Actually, this area is about how you design your network topology, how you segment your resources, how you segment your networks, how you route the traffic, what kind of traffic can go through based on what you want. What are the best practices or recommendation? First of all, we recommend you to do prevention, create another layer using AWS Edge services. You remember, right? We have web instances in AWS account, in your AWS account, and then it's face the internet. Between the internet and the web instances, you have no protection there. So we have a couple of services that help you to prevent and create a wall between the internet and your web application. Amazon CrowdWatch can help you to kind of filter the web requests from the external or from the internet before coming to your web application. It's integrated with AWS security, the DOS protection service. So it helps you to filter unlegitimate traffic or DOS traffic from outside before going through your web application. And AWS Cloud Shield is our DDoS protection service that help you to protect and common DOS attacks such as sync flag attack, UDP flag attack. This is already enabled by default with no cost. And we also have AWS WAF, which is Web Application Firewall, that is used to protect your web application from web attacks such as cross-site scripting, SQL injection, bot, web crawler, etc. So we encourage you to have one protection between internet and your web application, and you can leverage our AWS Edge services. The second recommendation is we recommend you to segment your AWS resources, create network zones within your VPC. And you also can use native security feature we call security group to protect your instance as well. Lastly, after you ensure that you have a prevention, you have a guard between your internet and your web application, and you have another firewall, you segment your resources, you have security group, which is kind of firewall for your instances. Lastly, you have to ensure that your operating system, your application are already in good place. There's no flaw, no vulnerabilities. So how to do that? You need to keep patching, scanning, and check the current status in terms of security of those application and operating system. AWS Inspector is a service that help you to scan vulnerabilities of your application and operating system. Let's go back to the architecture. What Ali's gonna tell Bob to do if they want to improve the security of the infrastructure of this architecture. First of all, you have to create another layer of protection. You apply WAF, Web Application Firewall, DOS attack protection. You apply CDN to kind of add another layer before the web request going to web server instance. You segment, you separate the web server and web instance and internal data service in different account already. You can also apply security group, which is a firewall for that instances. What does security group does? Basically, security group, you can go and create a security group and put your web server instance into that security group, and you can configure that what kind of traffic can coming into that security group that web server is in. For example, you can configure that security group, for example, web server instance security group, that you allow only traffic from port 80 or HTTPS port to coming in and communicate with web server instances. Another communication or another traffic from other port, for example, port 22, port 1000, cannot coming in to the web server instances. So that is how security group work. And then we go to the internal data service. Again, we can create another security group here to protect the internal data service or database instances. And you can go and configure security group that only, for example, the traffic from web server instance can coming into internal data service only. And you can specify what kind of port that allow web server to communicate with internal data service or database instances. You say that, and by doing that, if people from outside try to access the internal data service, they will not be able to do that because this security group does not allow traffic from other, only allow the traffic from web server on particular port only. So this is kind of another layer of protection to protect your resources. And what Ali's gonna tell Bob to do? Okay, please use Inspector to constantly scan to find flaw and vulnerability of your web instance and internal data service or database instances frequently. When you know how to protect your infrastructure, the most important thing. So this is one responsibility of the customers. Security in the cloud. One thing that you have to do and is your responsibility, you have to protect your data. When we're talking about data protection, When we're talking about data protection, we're going to talk about protecting the data when it's not moving and when it's moving. So we call protecting the data when it's not moving, we call it data at rest. So one recommendation when you do data protection is you have to encrypt data at rest. Why we say with occasional exception, sometimes some data which customer need to retrieve and it's not confidential data or it's not PI data, probably you don't need to encrypt it. That's why we put it as optional. But if you can, please encrypt all data at rest as much as you can. You need to ensure that you enable encryption at rest, and it's really help to ensure that it stay maintained integrity, nobody modified it. If it's a log file, security analysts can ensure that nobody modified that log. And again, please consider encrypting everything that's not public. If you store the data in S3, which is our simple storage service, we offer encryption feature for you. You just need to go and enable encryption through S3 bucket. We also recommend you to use server-side encryption with provider managed key. What does it mean? It means like if you use S3, we suggest you to use provider managed key. The reason why, because it's fully integrated with another service that easy to manage the encrypted data. If you use another service and need to retrieve the data that encrypted and is encrypted by the provider, it's really easy and it's smooth and it's fast for you to run your operation. Lastly, I mentioned before, if it's not moving, you have to encrypt. And between those two parties, like e-register web application, need to access the data in database instances in another account. When is data transferring between those two parties, you have to ensure that the data is encrypted as well. So basically, most of our storage services support communication over SSL, TSS, HTTPS communication. So you can ensure that the data that's moving between those party, web application, and database instances are encrypted. And Amazon CloudFront as well, you can go and configure Amazon CloudFront, which is our CDN service, to force that every communication between CloudFront and the viewer or the web user need to be over HTTPS communication. So you ensure that the request coming in to the CloudFront is encrypted. And once you need to manage your own certification, we also have ACM, which is Amazon certification management, that help you to manage your private certification as well when you need to handle with TLS, HSL, HTTPS communication. Yes, Alice gonna tell Bob, okay, please use KMS key to manage your encryption key and encryption every data address and transit and in transit. And you can ensure that the traffic between internet and your web application, web instance also encrypted. So now we understand what are flow areas that you need to take a look, implement to ensure that you build very secure system on AWS. The first one is IAM. It's a key feature, a key program that you need to do to ensure that right user access the right result. The second one, logging and monitoring. You have to ensure that you logging and monitoring, analyze the log that you have and detect suspicious or malicious event. Third one is infrastructure security. You have to ensure that you segment your resource properly. The traffic route in the direction that you want to route, you apply firewall, you apply protection, web application firewall, you apply firewall for your instances security group, and you ensure that traffic will not randomly route in your AWS account. Lastly, data protection. You have to ensure that you encrypt the data address, you encrypt the data when it's moving as well. Now you understand what you have to do, what are recommendations to address each area. So I think probably you're going to think about how you do that. Everyone it's not easy. A lot of security tasks need to do to meet those requirements or those recommendations. It has a long checklist that you have to do. Probably in the beginning, you're going to start crawling and then you're walking. And then when you ensure that you can walk, you can run. Let's talking about what you do when you're crawling. So for example, one recommendation that you have to do, you have to, for example, enable all locks in all regions, enable all locks of all services, right? Probably you know what you have to do, and then probably you go to the console and you create a trail and you enable all regions. You do step by step manually. If you need to do that, you cannot do that very often. Probably you can do the once in a month. It depends on your resources or how big your security team is, and it's not scalable. But of course, everyone need to go through that phase. The second one, when you try to walk, what is gonna happen? Probably okay, this is manual task, security task that you have to do every month. You do it like maybe within 3 months already, and you know that you're confident that that security task is needed to comply with your organization policy or compliance standards requirement. And now you start writing the script to automatically doing that scary task that you have to do in 3 months, for example. And you start apply relevant automation that we have offering. And probably when you have script, you can improve your security feature. You can complete the checklist maybe 10 times a month is better. When you already know you have some scripts, now you can have everything automated. So you can, it's kind of hero here. You can continuously monitoring, logging, checking, scanning. When you launch EC2 instance, you have a security group already waiting. You have a config already. So if you have that stage, it means that you can update or release your security, improve your security like more often. It's probably 10 times a month or 100 times a week. So you can ensure that everything is secure and in the right place. When you reach that state, you don't need to spend more time about security. So it's good for your business because your organization can focus on improving your business, maybe develop better application, certify your customers, or maybe even build another applications. At the beginning, I'm talking about 3 resources of security best practice that I covered today. They are another resource that you can check out if you want to improve security posture of your AWS account or the IT workload that running in AWS. We have one white paper called AWS Security Pillar Well Architect Framework. This is, I think, is released 3 years ago, and in that white paper also telling you how to what is the security best practice as well, but it's focusing on security pillar only. And the last 2, CIS AWS Security Foundation Benchmark and CIS AWS 3-tier web architecture benchmark is the CIS AWS Foundation that I mentioned today. But they have 2 white paper. One is focused on general workload. Another one is focused on web application. Let's say if Bob wanna build web application e-register, probably need to check out this benchmark. All right. I think that is all from me. Would like to ask if anyone has any questions. Happy to take either Thai question or English question.
โอเคครับมีใครมีคำถามเพิ่มเติมเกี่ยวกับเซอร์วิสที่เราใช้architect เพิ่มเติมบนในฝั่งของ security บ้างไหมครับโอเคตอนนี้ยังไม่มีแล้วโอเคตอนบ่ายจะมี lab หรือโชว์หน้าจอไหมครับ dashboard screen เดี๋ยวตอนช่วงวันนี้แลบเริ่มตอนขอดูนิดนึงนะครับวันนี้แลบเริ่มสักประมาณ 11:30 นะครับก็เดี๋ยวเราจะได้มีทำแลบเกี่ยวกับ service ที่พูดถึงมาด้วยนี้ที่พูดถึงที่คุณการพูดถึงไปนะครับโอเคครับวันนี้มีคำถามแล้วครับขอคำถามเพิ่มครับ
It can be any question that need to relate to AWS security service. If you have any concern, just feel free to ask any question. It's a good chance because we have very knowledgeable AWS people here. Like Andrew, he is really senior and Rohit here. For the lab in after during lunch, so yes, I can assure you step by step how to do that. We still try to figure out how to do this virtually, but I'm gonna try my best. And in the lab, what we're gonna do is it's gonna consist of 4 modules. The first one is gonna about like you create an environment, a testbed environment, have security services enable. Like we're gonna enable guard duty, we're gonna enable security hub, and we're gonna collect all log. And the second module is we're gonna build attack environment. Has 1 instances that attack gonna use to do HSS brute force to a web application. So you don't need to really generate the attack, but you just launch the stack and it's gonna automatically attack your web application from that instances that we're gonna launch. And then the third module that is really important one, and we want to focus on that module is once you detect something like guard duty, gonna detect some suspicious activity, guard duty gonna alert you that okay, when people try to brute force attack to your web application, and how you check, how you investigate, how you take action based on the finding that guard duty and security hub provide. For example, you know that how you figure out that which instance got compromised, got attacked, and then you go and check that instance and you check that what kind of role that instance has. Because like as I mentioned, like in Bob architecture, right? Basically, attacker gonna compromise 1 instance first and take privilege that he got from that instance that instance has already to do other things. For example, go to S3 bucket, delete all data there. So in the module 3, you're gonna go and check what role that attached to that instance, that compromised instance, and you're gonna try to rework that role. That means that the attacker doesn't have role to access S3 bucket anymore. And we also gonna try to use inspector as well, AWS inspector, to scan the compromised instance to see, to check, to verify why the attacker can brute force to that compromised instances. We're gonna like go like to try the investigation and take remediation, which is interesting in the lab. All right, I'm gonna take
เห็นมีคุณ sorry ครับเห็นมีคุณจอมมันนีใช่ไหมครับก็ทีครับคุณจอมมันนีเปิดไมค์ครับมีคำถามใช่ไหมครับเชิญเลยครับมีข้อสงสัยด้วยครับเห็นคุณจอมมันนีเปิดไมค์ขึ้นมาครับพอดีเพิ่งมันอินเทอร์
ภาษาไทยได้เลยค่ะ
พอดีนะครับพอดีเมื่อกี้มันอันนี้ accident เปิดไมค์ใช่ไหมครับโอเคพอดีมันคิดหลุดห้องไปครับพอดีเลยอ๋อครับโอเคครับโอเคงั้นเราจะเปลี่ยนวิธีนะครับผมจะถามแทนนะครับ ผมจะถามแทนนะครับเดี๋ยวขอดูชื่อก่อนครับว่าเราควรจะถามใครดีคุณบุษบาก็ได้ครับคุณบุษบาครับเปิดไมค์ได้ไหมครับเปิดไมค์ได้ไหมเอ่ยถ้าเราเปิดไมค์ไม่ได้เพื่อนจะลำบากแทนเรานะครับคุณบุษบาเปิดไมค์ไม่ได้นะครับโอเคครับคุณนิยาดาครับคุณนิยาดาเปิดไมค์ได้ไหมค่ะโอเคครับผม ผมถามแทนนะครับวันนี้ไม่มีใครถามนะครับผมถามแทนแล้วกันคุณนิยดาที่ฟังมาเนี่ยครับเซอร์วิสอะไรที่เราใช้สำหรับการทำ threat detection ครับพอจะคุ้นบ้างไหมครับหรือมีใครจะช่วยเพื่อนไหมครับคุณนิยดาเซอร์วิสอะไรที่ใช้ทำ threat detection ครับที่เรานั่งฟังมาเพลินเลยนานมากครับนี่อะไรปิดไมค์เปิดไมค์แล้วครับโอเคครับพี่แทงครับเชิญเลยครับสื่อส่วนไหนที่เราใช้ทำ threat detection บน AWS ครับคุณไม่เอ่ย
start from G ค่ะ
โอเคครับมีใครอาสาจะช่วยเพื่อนบ้างไหมครับโอเคครับเราต้องอาศัยคนคุ้นเคยแล้วครับคุณบอลครับคุณบอลช่วยเพื่อนหน่อยครับบอลอยู่ไหมครับวันนี้ไม่มีใครถามผมถามแทนนะครับเดี๋ยวอีกเซสชันนึงผมก็จะถามแทนกัน
ขอทวนคำถามหน่อยครับ
โอเคครับเซอร์วิสอะไรบน AWS ที่ช่วยเราในเรื่องการทำ threat detection ครับ
threat detection นะครับ
ครับขึ้นต้นด้วยตัว G ครับคุณหมายปิดคุณบอลปิดใหม่เลยนะครับ
การให้ช้อยก็ได้นะคะCrowdFront นะคะอันแรกCrowdFront อันที่สองEC2 นะคะอันที่สาม Guard Duty ค่ะ
ตัว G ครับ
โอเคครับเอาเสื้อไปแจกไม่ได้นะครับตอนนี้เราอยู่รีโมทนะครับโอเคขอบคุณครับโอเคครับขออีกหนึ่งคำถามครับถ้าไม่มีใครถามเราจะถามแทนครับโอเคครับผมไล่ชื่อนิดนึงนะครับมีคนอยู่ล่างๆนะครับไม่เคยได้สกอร์ดาวลงมาคุณโชติกาอยู่ไหมครับทำเป็นไม่อยู่ก็ได้นะครับคุณโชติกาอยู่ไหมครับเปิดไมค์ได้ไหมครับเปิดไมค์ได้ไหมครับ
อยู่ค่ะ
ผมพี่การขอหนึ่งคำถามครับ
ค่ะ
มั่นใจเสียงมั่นใจงั้นเอายากๆเลยนะคะ
ไม่มั่นใจค่ะ
ที่การพูดไปareaหนึ่งก็คือ logging and monitoring ใช่ไหมคะก็คือคุณจะต้องrecommendation ให้บอก1 recommendation ใน area ของ logging monitoring ค่ะการบอกไป3อย่างค่ะ
logging เหรอคะ
ค่ะ
ครับมีใครจะช่วยอาสาช่วยเพื่อนไหมครับมีไหมครับผมรู้ว่าเราต้องมีคนตอบได้แน่นอนคนที่คุยกับผมบ่อยที่สุดครับคุณอ้อครับคุณอ้อครับเราสามารถทำ
ถูกต้องค่ะมีคนตอบมาค่ะถูกต้องค่ะ
โอเคครับ
คุณกนิกา
ใช่ไหมครับโอเคช่วยเพื่อนได้
กนิกาตอบว่าจะต้องเปิดหลอกใน all account ค่ะทุก account ค่ะนอกจากนั้นก็คือต้องเปิดทุกๆ service ด้วยนะคะแล้วก็เปิดทุกๆ region ด้วยค่ะ
โอเคครับผมขอบคุณครับก็เดี๋ยวผมเข้าใจว่าน่าจะเซสชันนี้น่าจะเท่านี้ก่อนนะครับหรือว่าทางนิการมีคอมเมนต์อะไรเพิ่มเติมไหมครับ
ไม่มีค่ะ
จะได้เบรกแล้วก็ครับ
ให้อูจัดการเลยค่ะเบรกแล้วก็เราเริ่มอีกทีเมื่อไหร่
ได้ครับก็เดี๋ยวอีก15นาทีเราเบรกกัน15นาทีนะครับแล้วก็ตอนนี้ 10:10 นาทีเดี๋ยวเริ่มประมาณสัก 10:25 นะครับแล้วก็เดี๋ยวเรามาต่อเซสชันที่2เป็นเรื่องของสักครู่นะครับเซสชันที่2เป็นเรื่องของ encryption เรื่อง encryption ถ้าไม่มีใครสงสัยเดี๋ยวเราก็จะถามเหมือนเดิมนะครับ เราจะ random ถามเหมือนเดิมนะครับโอเคครับก็เดี๋ยวเราเบรกกันสัก15นาทีเจอกันอีกที1 10:25 นะครับ So Andrew and Rohit, we break for 15 minutes. We come back at 10:25. Okay, ขอบคุณครับเดี๋ยวเจอกันนะครับ
Okay, 10:25. Yeah, cup.
25.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.